Yeah, does any questions out there? Should I move on to Kristen and Ebersol? All right, I think I'm going to go to you now, Christian. Yeah, thank you, Brittany. And Christian, he and I did Climate Tech Fellowship together, I think in 2021 now, maybe, and with On Deck. And he's an entrepreneur, young entrepreneur, has got a little bit of experience under his belt now and is doing 99 counties. I almost said farms, but it's 99 counties. And it's in the ag space, and I'll let him, tell a little bit more about his background and what 99 counties is doing right now.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Matt, and thank you to everyone for being here today. Great to see so many people passionate about the climate and our planet. Just confirming, maybe Matt, can you see the presentation all right? Great. Awesome. Well, a couple of the earlier speakers actually spoke to this problem. There was an earlier speaker, the problem that we're solving. So my name's Christian Ebersol. I'm the CEO and co-founder of 99 Counties. What you're looking at the screen here is the outline of the state of Iowa. And then in the foreground, some grass-fed, grass-finished cattle, which, contrary to probably what many of you have heard, this right here is a climate solution. And I'm happy and excited to tell you more about that today. A previous presenter today mentioned a lot of the issues being caused by excess nitrogen fertilizer washing down the Amazon River. We have the exact same problem here in America, in the Mississippi River. Our once fertile Great Plains, and this is a piece of it right here in Iowa, were once home to some of the richest soils in the world. Soils that on average contained between 8 to 10% soil carbon content. Much of that soil is now closer to 1 to 2% carbon content. And that's because we've strip mined it and because we largely only grow 2 crops, especially in Iowa, where 29 of 33 million acres are dedicated to corn and soybeans, most of which doesn't end up necessarily in food you eat. It may end up in a feedlot. It may end up in ethanol. 1/3 of this planet's natural ecosystems are grasslands. And a grassland ecosystem is an ecosystem that is not meant to have trees. We should have trees in the rainforest. There are certain places we should have trees, but an ecosystem that's meant to be a grassland because of the precipitation and other factors that influence it is going to be healthiest for the natural organisms there and for building carbon if it's treated that way. And these aren't ecosystems that can exist without any animals. They, in the case of the U.S. Great Plains, mostly got that way through bison. And so other forms of ruminants, animals that naturally turn the cellulose of grass-based plants into protein, are the best use of that land. And so that's what we're all about here at 99 Counties, along with other forms of regenerative agriculture that are going to have a lower carbon footprint. As you may know, agriculture is actually, when you look at sectors of the economy, is the second largest culprit in terms of greenhouse gases. Broadly defined as food, agriculture, and land use by Project Drawdown, that's 24% of our carbon problem. And today, that's a problem because of the way we farm. Tomorrow, we can certainly not have it be a problem. We can actually have farming be part of reversing the process. This here is the result of a study done by Qantas. They did a study both of Impossible Foods, showing the carbon footprint of a non-meat burger in the middle there, which was certainly better than a conventional one. But on the right, they also did a study of a farm called White Oak Pastures and showed that the carbon footprint of that farm was actually negative. And that's due mostly to regenerative agriculture principles, which are all about multiple crop species, continuous roots in the ground, and rotating of livestock through that land appropriately. Not to mention the kind of shorter distance from farm to customer, which is something that's very important to us here at 99 Counties. So, as I'm kind of alluding to, much of the issue with farming is the way we're doing it today. And in fact, the way we need to do it is more returning to past practices. And that's because we treat agriculture today like it's a factory, where we don't care about the impact that what we're doing may have downstream on the bugs, the bees, the water cycle, or carbon. So the far right of the screen, you can actually see my co-founder, Nick Wallace, who that is just outside where I am here in Iowa, where it is crazy windy today, where he's returned a lot of the natural prairie to the way it used to be before it was farmed by other people for corn and soy and other monocrops. And this has all been done through integrating cattle into this land. So what do we do as a business? Fundamentally, we're a food company. So we work today with 26 local regenerative farms. Most of those are in Iowa. We do work with a few in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And today we only service customers in Iowa and the greater Chicago area. And that's, again, part of our mission. It's not just the regenerative farming piece of it. It's also trying to shrink the distance that the food goes. We're working on having barcoding on our packages that will tell the customer a story of where that food came from. Today, it's just the label of the county and the farm. And then we deliver to customers' doorsteps what you see on the right. So regeneratively raised meat that comes in a sustainable, reusable bag. Many of the other direct-to-consumer food or meat businesses out there are using a lot of cardboard and a lot of dry ice. We don't have to do any of that because we're all local. The business we started a little over a year ago. As I mentioned, we're in Chicago and Iowa only. Last year, we did about $1 million of revenue. This year, we'll do about 2 with about a run rate of 3 at the end of the year. We recently added farm-raised eggs to the product mix. We're soon going to be adding bison, which is really a dream come true for me because it's so much of what the prairies should be home to. In the future, we'll add dairy and we'll expand to other markets. We are a venture-backed business with big aspirations to build a really big, impactful business that turns more of U.S. agriculture to regenerative agriculture. The leadership team, me and my co-founder, Nick Wallace, who I mentioned, started the business. We've been joined by Doug Stonebreaker. Yes, that's really his last name. Doug is a pioneer in the regenerative agriculture space who actually moved to Iowa from California. A move home for him as it's where his wife's from, and he had worked in regenerative agriculture in California for over 20 years. Then we have a team of marketers and operations you can see on the screen here, as well as some key advisors and investors helping us along the way. We're currently raising an extension to our last fundraise. We're raising $425,000. You can see the terms of that, which are all consistent with the prior raise. The use of the proceeds is a couple of things. One, we're embarking on Savory certification. Savory Hubs are a group of ranchers and regeneratively minded folks who do environmental outcome verification programs for farms. So we can truly have a third party verifying the carbon improvements, water cycle improvements, and biodiversity improvements that the farms we're working with are having. Then we're making some subscription additions to the website. We're doing the QR code traceability project that I mentioned, and continuing to scale our marketing to build more route density in our delivery routes for our customer base. So that's it. Matt said 5 slides. I think I saw some people with 20. I like to keep it short. So that's a wrap on us. Happy to answer any questions folks may have about 99 counties or regenerative agriculture in general.
Yeah, so I'll start with a couple. So what sort of scale do you need to, say, get to break even and then profitability?
So we can get to break even with just 5 million of revenue. So we're not too far away from that. And then profitability, any point thereafter. But, one of our board members built a similar business in the Northeast. And if you're growing, you tend to eschew profitability to invest back in growth. So if we were trying to just build a break-even business, probably around $5 million. The business I referenced that did something very similar to this, but in New England, is called Walden Local. They're about a $45 million business with decent profitability at that scale.
Do they have any relationship to Walden Bank?
Yep. So Charlie Cummings, who's our independent board director, was the original founder and CEO of Walden Meat, and then he went on to create Walden Bank.
Oh, okay, because I actually, I guess, invested in them. They call it, I forget what they're calling it, like if it's a note or what it was, but yeah, it seems like they're doing some pretty good stuff there. So you got some good little DNA, to model after. It seems like. And 99 counties, did you say, is that from Iowa? Is there 99 counties in Iowa?
Yeah,
Where are you getting
I should have,
99
yes.
counties?
Yeah, thank you. I should have mentioned that. So there are 99 counties in Iowa, which is a fun fact. The founding story of our business is Nick Wallace, my co-founder, was coming back from an Acres USA conference in Minneapolis a couple years ago. Nick was one of the first people to do grass-fed, grass-finished beef and organic agriculture in Iowa. And he was coming back from this conference really fired up about, a lot of the energy that he heard people talking about agriculture at this conference a couple of years ago. He was driving back here to his farm, and he's looking around at monocropped corn and soy as far as the eye can see, pig confinement, feedlot, and he's just thinking to himself, damn it, like we haven't changed anything here. Well, what if we could get one farmer in each of the counties, and affect change that way? And so he grew up, he's a sixth generation Iowan. He didn't know, he Googled it, and turns out there are 99 counties. And so that's where the name comes from. And that's our mission, to try to change those counties.
Cool. And so was it 425, 450 extension raise?
425,000. Yep.
425. Okay. And then you said, did you say how much you raised prior?
It wasn't on the screen. We raised a $3.8 million round in February of last year.
Oh, okay. All right. So good size round there. And there was one other thing that's now slipping my mind. Oh, what do you think motivates most of your customers? Do you think it's the fact that it's more nutritious, that it's healthier for you? Is it that they feel more connected with an individual farmer? What are you finding sort of motivates and resonates most with your customers?
It's health. So we did 2 customer surveys at the start of the year. One was so we have a membership program where for $99 a year, you get 20% off all the products. So customers can be members or non-members. We surveyed both groups, and very identically, both came back with 53 to 55% saying health, as in like that they trust that this food is better for their health being their number one reason. Regenerative agriculture, right, which was, I care a lot about the health aspect too, but regenerative agriculture and climate was my first impetus for this. That ranks as the second factor at 25%. And then it's kind of a smorgasbord after those 2 first reasons.
Sure. And is most of the business like kind of local Midwest within Iowa, national? Where are you kind of finding your customers?
Yeah, we've made the choice, at least right now, to only service local customers. So much as it sometimes pains me, like you couldn't be a customer, because we do all our own deliveries, and it's only Greater Chicago and then most of the major metros in Iowa. And it's kind of, sometimes we certainly, I'll say it so that no one thinks, we were dishonest. We entertain the idea of going national sometimes because there's a lot of demand, but truly, I'd rather you found a great local farmer in Colorado to get your food from, and I want the folks in, Iowa and Chicago to get it from here. So we're trying to build more of a regional food network.
I respect that a lot. I think that's a good way to approach it, and it's, if as long as you're able to sort of scale and get the supply sold locally, it's kind of a better way to go, more resilient food system. Lots of different benefits there. All right. So did you have anything you want to add? Does anyone else have any questions that I'm not seeing anything in the chat there, but if anyone wants to jump in real quick, or any final thoughts from you, Christian?
Well, thanks again for having me here. And, final thought for everyone would just be encourage you to always look for local places to get your food. And if you've been swayed by a lot of the voices or conversation out there that meat is bad, a lot of the meat is bad, but not all of it is bad. Not all of it has to be bad. It can actually be very good. So encourage you to look for regenerative food opportunities. If you happen to be in our delivery area, would love to have you as customers. And if anyone wants to ping me on LinkedIn, always happy to give recommendations where you may be based.
Awesome. And I'll say I think it's not just food. If you can buy anything local, there's something to be said for that. Less transportation, a little more resiliency. I tend to feel myself as a citizen of the world, so I don't feel like I have to create the jobs locally necessarily, but it is a side benefit. You know, if you know that's how you feel, and but I do think just from a being connected to you know who's providing you, and it's a little more personalized when you know it's like, oh well, that's just down the road there. You know, I've driven past that farm or what have you. So yeah, nice work, and appreciate having you here.